Feedback. Feedback. Hi, this is Theo Broughton.
And I am Thabiti Mpinga.
Inviting you to join us each Monday at 9 a.m. for Feedback,
A positive image production by Hood Research.
Encourage others to tune in each Monday on
Comcast Detroit, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, watch WHPR TV Network anywhere.
And take us along with you. Feedback, feedback, feedback.
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard, you liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs, political jobs.
Paul, you missed the point. It's only the smart ones we move up.
That makes it even worse.
No, we have to move them up. If we leave a smart one in the ghetto, he might develop into a leader against us. But if we raise him up into white society, we neutralize him. He feels compelled to try to act like us. He loses his identity and his racial anger, if he has any. He becomes alien to his brothers. They realize he sold them out and they grow to hate him. He becomes worthless to them and safe for us. No, thank you. In fact, in his love for the creature comforts, except for his color, he's become one of us.
All right. We're all the way live right here at WHPR 160 Victor Street. Thank all of you so much for tuning in and for sharing the information about Hood Research being on each and every Monday at 9 a.m. My name is Theo Broughton for any new viewer, and I'm the co-founder of Hood Research, and my co-host,
Thabiti, and we welcome you to the program.
And I want to thank those of you who helped to sponsor this program. And for those of you who are contemplating doing the same, please make your check or your money order out to Hood Research. If you prefer, you can make your check out to WHPR Broadcasting Company. We have no objection to that. But we do ask that you mail it to Hood Research so that we can make sure that it gets credited for this program. The address is Hood Research, P.O. Box 4416, Detroit, Michigan 48204. Again, that's Hood Research at P.O. Box 4416, Detroit, Michigan 48204. And I want to say good morning. Good morning to Vera and Barbara and to Les, and good morning to Jay way over on the east side. I want to say good morning to Paul and to Carl, and there's just so many people that I continue to meet as I attend the different activities out in the community. I want to say good morning to Jason, who's going to be getting married soon, and Thabiti, who you want to say good morning to?
I'd say some of our current and hopefully new viewers, Brother Smith Bay, Brother Fred, Sister Frida Washington, Sister Jackie Bowman, Sister Sheila Ragland. Also, I always ask that you have your neighbors, friends, co-workers, family tune in, and a shout out to Ruth Ann. She's a very dedicated watcher. And Brother Shane, I saw him over the weekend, and he's just a conscious young man, the generation behind me. But it's nice to know that the generation behind us are very knowledgeable as well, so they will carry the torch.
Oh, yeah.
And also have pen and paper handy for information you may want to record.
Always when you tune in to Hood Research. And I need to say good morning to Rosa. And as we go on to Tom, our lifetime member of Hood Research. And, Dee Dee, got to say good morning, Dee Dee, and Sylvia, and just so many, Thabiti, who are supporters of Hood Research. I have a family member who attended a luncheon this past Saturday. Of course, as most of you know, Hood Research has a monthly meeting on the second Saturday of each month at the Dabo Center from 2 to 6 p.m. And at this luncheon on Saturday, there were those who were saying they had to hurry up and finish eating their lunch because they had to come to the Hood Research meeting. of course, I was excited to hear that information. And the meeting was attended, well attended, and there was a presentation about functional functional medicine. It was a very interesting presentation, and we also had a candidate, Abdul El Sayed, who came to our meeting as to speak to the participants as well. But right now, this morning, we have with us a guest that you all have asked to return, and he has returned. He comes from time to time, and that is Professor Michael Griggs. He is a professor at Wayne County Community College, the college that I always recommend. And I must say, one of the reasons I recommend it is because it is economically beneficial to everyone. Our young people can get an associate's degree from Wayne County Community College for maybe 1/3 of the cost of somewhere else. Then transfer and get your bachelor's. Matter of fact, the per credit hour, I'm told, is $107 for those inside the district, $118 for those outside the district, and that's per credit hour, compared to $330 something at Wayne State, which is in this same area. But now, Professor Griggs,
Yes.
thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And I must add that for those of you who may not know yet, Professor Griggs teaches black history, black psychology, and black politics. And not always in that order per semester. And registration for the, what they call it, the spring session is going on now. So for those of you who are contemplating taking some courses, and for those who are 60 years of age or older, you can take classes free of charge.
That's the summer session.
The summer session. Okay, so they're registering for the summer session. Okay. Now this morning, since we're in another election season, shall we say, I think we need to use some of the black psychology you teach and black politics, because last December, Congressman John Conyers decides to up and quit, leaving the 13th district vacant of a representative in Congress. So, the chairperson of the 13th district, they say, sent a little note to the governor. They said, don't bother to arrange a special election. The Negroes don't need it, Anyway, that may not be the exact words, but that's actually the result of it. And so we are having taxation without representation. Again, you're right. Because there have been other districts who've had a similar issue, and it's been solved in 6 weeks. So, what's the psychology of that dumb move?
Well, I don't think any district should be without representation, just like you. And I think a lot of us are asleep at the wheel, even to suggest that we should have that taxation without representation. And unfortunately, it's the way many of us play with power. And when you play with power, there can be serious repercussions by not having representation.
You gotta say that again. When you play with power, it can have serious repercussions.
Correct.
Lord, we got a lot of those. But there was one young man, attorney Michael Gilmore, who filed a federal lawsuit, in this issue. And there have been those fighting against him. Craziest thing I've heard. And I wonder why there were not other candidates or elected officials who didn't stand with him or file their own lawsuit if they didn't want to join with him. They could have filed their own lawsuit. And there's a woman, Rashida Tlaib, who is campaigning, who said, "Oh, he wouldn't let me file with him." I've never heard him say any such thing, nor did she ask to be involved. Go ahead.
No, I agree. I think there should be more people because when you don't have representation, uh, you have people that are vulnerable. And we are a community that's being attacked from so many areas. Not to have that good shepherd looking over the flock, again, can be serious repercussions. So it should be an alarm that should go off and say, hey, we have this community on this side of town or that side of town that's not represented, and we need someone there on the forefront to represent them and to deal with their issues.
And there have been a lot of things to vote on, and he's been MIA since he quit.
You know what's interesting, and I don't know if it can be done. You guys are a lot more engaged in politics than myself, but if there can be something put in the law, structured in the law, that there should be no period, there should be a time limit. If it's less than 3 months, let's say, for instance, I'm just throwing this out here, that I put it like this: we know the election is going to be. We have the primary, and then we're going to have the general election this year. But there should be a period of time that if no community should go more than 3 months or whatever, like you say, 6 weeks. In the case of Thaddeus McCotter, that we should not be without a representative, someone who can speak for us. So that's just a thought of mine. But we do have a caller as well.
Sure.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please? You're on the air, caller. Okay, probably listening to the phone. Call back. But yes, I think that, and I don't know, how do you do that? You get a referendum? I know you. Again, you guys are a lot more engaged than myself. But do you get a referendum, or do you get that put on the ballot? Or how does one go about even establishing something like that? And who submits that proposal?
Well, it may be something that has to go through Congress because the rule of thumb has been if a senator resigns, that would be a senator working in Washington, D.C., the governor has the authority to appoint a senator. Thank God no senator has resigned. I'd hate to have to live with somebody that Snyder appoints, seeing as how he's a murderer of the people in Flint. He'd be murdering more of us. Now, when it comes to Congress, the governor has the right to name a special election date. So perhaps we could petition members of Congress, our representatives in Congress. Brenda Lawrence is one, and ask if they would put that on the floor to be changed. And as far as doing something different within the state, having the authority to do that by petition or vote of the people of the state, I'd have to look into that because most times if there's a federal law, the state doesn't override it.
Okay, we had a couple of callers.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, caller.
You're calling early.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
Happy Monday.
Hey, happy Monday to you.
Comcast, Channel 91.
What? Say that again.
She's Comcast.
Comcast,
91.
Channel
Oh,
91.
great. Okay.
Quick question. What's more powerful, your votes or your money? I see that now that they're boycotting and having an issue with Starbucks, that they have hired a black woman as one of their CEOs, chief CEOs, whatever, of operations. So what is more powerful, either or both? Because if you're able to rig these elections and buy off all the politicians, I'm just trying to figure out which one holds the most power, the votes or the money, or both. I'll hang up and listen.
Okay. A black woman was hired as CEO of what?
She hung up.
She hung up. Oh. Anyway, Sylvia, I'd like to know, a black woman was hired as CEO of what organization or business? Which is more powerful was the question, our money or our vote? Well, our vote actually is more powerful The issue with our vote is not enough adequate information and education to let the masses know how much power they actually have. The money is used to brainwash the community by media, by commercials. Money is used to pay people under the table, in the back, in the corner, in the dark, so that they move to manipulate the minds of people, such as you were mentioning. But the school systems have dropped civics. Our young people are not learning about the power of the vote. They're not even being encouraged to vote. What is your
I agree.
take on that?
I agree. That's one of the major complaints I have with education and people involved in education. We have high expectations about engagement. We want young people to be engaged at this level or that level. But if you don't have classes to stimulate that engagement, their curiosity about those things, at best is just, it's just a wish. We're just hoping that folks would get involved in the political process. But unless you engage them at some level, and as they continue to drop classes like this, you'll see less engagement.
Right.
Because, we may want our children to be anthropologists. But if you don't have classes on anthropology, you don't, they don't become curious and engaged about anthropology.
Don't even know what the word means.
That's right. So as they, these classes decline, there's so many of some serious classes that we need on various levels. As they decline, you will see a lack of engagement. So we must engage people and show them the connection between voting and politics and how it affects their lives. But if we don't, hoping that they become engaged, again, it's just a wish.
That's right. Well, good morning, Sam and Ron and Clementine. Got
Okay.
someone else on that?
Yeah, a couple of people. But I just want to add a little footnote, and I'm not really sure where Sylvia was going with the money thing. And what I mean by that is which is more powerful. And I don't know if she had. Maybe she'll call back about money in terms of boycotting or using that as an influence to have manufacturers, producers, business people say, well, look, these people are not buying our product. But I'm not sure if that's the way she was going with it.
Okay.
So maybe there'll be a little clarification on that, because that is a form of power too, as we know from
definitely.
the Montgomery boycott. But we'll go to our
Yes.
next caller.
All right.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
This is Sharon.
Hi,
I'm watching you on 91 Comcast.
Thanks for calling.
You're welcome.
Mm.
I'm calling, guys. Yeah, concerning Sylvia. She was speaking about something about the name of the place. She was on the news. Starbucks. She was talking about they boycotting Starbucks.
Okay.
Concerning incident happened there.
Okay. And they hired a black CEO? Is that what you're saying?
Right, that was she saying. That was she saying.
Uh-huh.
I know is that it's a boycott being called against Starbucks.
Okay.
And I want to ask anybody attend the convention yesterday, the Democratic convention. Now, I had for governor, I was backing Bill Cobb, and for Attorney General, I had Patrick Miles. As far as I know, Patrick Miles didn't get anywhere, and Bill Cobb didn't get anywhere. But do you know any details about what happened at the convention?
Well, as far as the gubernatorial race is concerned, they didn't deal with it. As far as Attorney General is concerned, there was a tie between Pat Miles and Dana, whatever her last name is. So, I think that when these kinds of votes come up, they need to divide the room rather than have catchy little gadgets to vote and all, because we know that those kinds of things can be altered, manipulated, etc. But Pat Miles got a lot of support yesterday. And the last thing about the Secretary of State, Benson, the one that teaches at Wayne State, seems to be unopposed. There is another person in the race, but they ignore her.
Oh yeah, that's Vanessa. She got my support.
Yes.
They can ignore all they want.
But they right, Vanessa Olive. But they were on Saturday did the same thing. She wasn't even on the listing. She was there, but she wasn't on the listing. So anyway, that just means we have to work harder. That's all.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for calling. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
Yeah, I was talking about Starbucks. They hired a black woman from the AKA sorority for CEO, chief operations.
And that just...
And this is the first time they ever done it, so my guess is probably because of the boycott. And that's why I was talking about where's the power. Is it in the money or is it in the vote? Because if you got criminal elites that can rig and buy everything, how are they able to do that if it's not the money? I'm just questioning it. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Well, the money gets laced through because candidates that you have to vote for have to have money to get their name out as well.
Correct.
So it's laced through everything.
Yeah, because to a great extent you have to be willing to be bought.
Oh, in order for the money to have power.
Correct. Because I often tell my students that, money is not necessarily power. It's a position that one's occupied. This is why our fathers before us was considered to be so dangerous, i.e. Martin Luther King, Garvey, or Malcolm X, not because they had a lot of money, but they occupied a position where they can influence countless number of people to engage in certain behaviors. So a politician himself, if he allows himself to be bought, then money plays a tremendous role. But we can look at this right now at the political landscape. We have Donald Trump, right? Think about Donald Trump before he became president, right? Before, he was this kind of outlier, this person on the outskirts, on the peripheral. A lot of people looked at him as a clown, and he did get some people to engage in a whole birth certificate nonsense. But what he said, for the most part, people didn't care, and it really didn't matter, even though he was a billionaire. But now he occupies a very powerful position. Everything he says, the market changes based on that. See,
Wall Street, you mean?
That's right. Wall Street, the stock market, the whole 9 yards. See, as it relates to war, because now he occupies a position that's extremely powerful. Before but he still had the money that he had before he became president. But now that position, so he comes out and he says something about China, and we see the stock market goes down. The threat of a trade war.
Right.
Whatever he says about the military and going to shoot bombs over to Syria, we see that the market reflects that, and people around the world, their behavior changed because he occupies a very powerful position. He always had the money, but now this position, right, that affects the world economy, stock market, wars, everything. Before this position, he had the money. Who cared what Donald Trump said?
He didn't have this power.
That's right. That position is extremely important.
Okay. All right.
That's very interesting too when you mention Malcolm and Martin and the sway they had on the mindset of people, not only African Americans, but Americans and just people in general, to be able to even let's say speak with world leaders, as Malcolm was able to travel all over the world, as well as Martin. And I find it interesting. And then I look at it in the context of some of the because I had this discussion over the weekend with a few people when we look at Michael Jackson going up against Sony, and you had Prince going up against Warner Brothers, and he even had, although it wasn't like Mike Tyson's, he had Slave put on his face because he was trying to articulate even as an artist, you don't have that freedom. And the fact that both of them lost their lives, so I'm just sort of drawing a line between Malcolm and Martin, and I would say Tupac as well too, because anyone who has, as you know, from COINTELPRO and the whole J. Edgar Hoover thing, they say we cannot allow someone to rise up among the people, similar to what our Trick Baby says, but it's on a more but on a more local level with the Trick Baby clip. But we cannot allow anyone to rise up among them who may have an influence on the people. Now, I know when Barack was running, you had P. Diddy and a lot of other celebrities who were out there. I didn't really like the slogan "Vote or Die," but I mean, they were able to engage, get them engaged, and that's not what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with, well, certainly with 45 up there, we're just dealing with a reactionary thing. And it's something you said, Professor Griggs, that kind of struck me. It's like you said initially. Well, it's still the case. He's a billionaire, but he had no power or influence outside of the fact that he was just somebody, a gadfly with a lot of rhetoric and everything. Now he's become someone who has the ability to say, well, let's go get them. And then he has the Trumpsters who are following him with Trumpanzees, as I like to call them, who will just buy into anything he says and go along with it. So I hope they go over there and fight Syria first, and we can just stay here and wait.
And oftentimes you'll have the two working in concert, money and power. Like Oprah, she has both. Right. She has money and she has power. Right. She occupies a very powerful position where she can come out and just say, go buy this water right here. And millions of people actually go and do it. So it's the position that one's occupied that can influence the behavior of countless number of people. That's what Martin had, and that's what Malcolm had. That's why the FBI said they were the most dangerous people in American society. Right. Not because of their wealth, but they occupied a very powerful position to influence countless number of people. Right. That's like a little army, if you will. Right. You can tell people, hey, go do this, and millions of people go do something. That's a very, very powerful position.
That's why there are those with money paying the churches, the church members, and forgiving them for the cost of this water. What are they calling it? The water, I forget. The water that God rains down off the clouds. They want you to pay for it now. Anyway, so X number of churches have been exempted from that because they have a number of members in their churches, and of course, if we allow candidates, etc., to prance through your church and speak and pass out literature, you are influencing them to vote in the manner in which the person wants them to. And over the weekend, I was at another meeting, and they were saying the reason why the chairperson of the 13th Democratic District, who is Jonathan Kinloch, is appointed to so many positions. The most recent one is the Water Board, which they say he's being paid $20,000 or so for being on the Water Board. Most board members that I hear about are not getting paid. I thought that was kind of interesting. But he is on maybe 5, 6, 7 different boards, and they're saying that perhaps it's because his brother, Solomon Kinloch, is someone who has 3 churches in Detroit. He has churches elsewhere as well. But he has Triumph Church, which is on East Grand Boulevard. He has the First Church, which is in Southwest Detroit. And most recently acquired is a church on Joy Road, just this side of the Southfield Freeway. Now think of all those potential voters who get encouraged and motivated to volunteer, to vote, to get others to come out and vote. So that's using power to get an end result that is not necessarily good for the rest of the people in this community.
You know, it's interesting. Professor Griggs said earlier, I kind of liked it too. He said when we were talking about representatives and then the lack of having them, he says, well, we don't have a shepherd to lead the flock. And then I'm thinking about church and shepherd and flock. Mislead the flock.
Misleading the flock, right.
Could be another caller.
Yeah. Yes, okay.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please? You on
This
there?
is Kurt, Detroit, Channel 33.
Oh, thanks for calling, Kirk. Is your reception clear?
Yes, it's kind
Oh.
of clear.
Good. Okay. What's up?
But I wanted to agree with the brother in the blue spectrum. I can't pronounce your name right, but I apologize. But you was on
Graffiti or
point
Michael
that
Griggs?
when you see a black person rise into a level of importance where he has influence over other people, they do tear him down. As far as I'm concerned, the death of Michael Jackson and the death of Prince was a conspiracy with so many others. The reason a lot of these cases, in my opinion, this is my opinion, is directed at black people, not just in Detroit, but around the world, especially in this country, because most blacks do not realize that this country was taken from black people. Once you understand that, then you can understand why the hatred is directed at you. All these other people in this country was brought on board later. They had to exterminate the population here, and when slavery came in, they went over in Africa and restocked America like they did so many other places. So when you look at the world today, they don't want to bring this up. They have hidden this. So if I'm only stealing from you, I don't have to direct my hatred towards others, like the Chinese or any other national. I'm only directing it at you because it's you who I stole all this from. So he came.
Hello?
Kurt?
The phone must have dropped.
Okay. Kurt, call back to finish your thought if you need to. You had a response to that?
Yeah, you know what? In my classes, I kind of share with my students because a lot of us have a hang-up. A lot of us think that we have been the sole target of white supremacy, but that's not true. This is one thing the white men have been fair about. He has distributed pain across all folks of color. Right? And I often share with them, I say, listen, this man is at odds with black people. This man is at odds with Native Americans. This man is at odds with Asian people. He's at odds with the creatures that roam the earth. He's at odds with the creatures that's in the sea. He's at odds with the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the ozone layer. There is nothing in nature that he gets along with. So I don't want to single us out and make it seem like the extinction of all these animals and Native Americans dying in the millions and what happened over in India. He has been equal when it comes to distributing pain and oppression.
What happened in India?
Oh man, they tens of millions. They starved them to death.
Oh God.
Yeah. The British Raj went over there, and they created the caste system as well. And
What?
Yeah, they created the caste system, and they starved and they murdered everywhere. The Aborigines in Australia and Tasmania, they just wiped out a whole group of black people who were in Tasmania. So they went all over the globe.
It makes me think about China as well. When they had the Opium Wars, they were trying to destroy China. It's just too many Chinese for them to handle.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have to, we have to think about this. We were talking about this in class the other day because politics and some of the political decisions and the outcomes connected to it is based on a person or a group of people mindset, how they think, and then they create policies and it affect people. So right now, as we sit back, right, we've been in the Middle East for just shy of 20 years, been about 17, 18 years now. And I told my students, I said, okay, we see the bombs, we see the carnage, the buildings. I said, but think about this. 17 years, that's roughly a generation. Right. I said, now think about this. An entire generation that didn't receive an education.
K through 12.
Think about a future with no teachers, no nurses, no doctors, no lawyers, no carpenters, electricians, people who've been illiterate their whole life. Not just a few individuals, but an entire generation.
Right.
Now think about the future of people. And all this was predicated on the mind of a white man who did on the micro level what he does to us over on a global level. He thought he saw a gun. He thought he saw a gun over there, weapons of mass destruction, and he gonna go get them.
Right.
Because if he don't go get them, they might get a gun and come back and kill the white man. He see the Mexicans, despite a 46-year low of immigration, he see them coming to invade America, and they gonna get him when he sleeps. But you gotta watch that Korean, because they might get the big gun as well. The black man being shot down for holding a cell phone, this white man sees a gun. Everywhere he sees, so he drafts these policies that affect folks' lives. So now we're looking at a Middle East whose future will hang in peril because they have undermined an entire generation. And it's not over yet. We're at 17 years now. It could be 25 years, could be 30 years. But this is what happened in the thinking of certain people. And they create policies, and they act on those policies, and they undermine people of color lives all over the globe.
It makes me think about the fact that the French, British, and the United States didn't even verify whether Syria was responsible for the sarin gas. They just decided, well, we got to do something, and I'm sure they didn't go through the United Nations Security Council or anything at all, especially with the the permanent members or anything. They just say, well, look, we are bold enough to do this, and like you say, they establish policy and try to get the world to buy into it. It's an insanity that when future generations look back on this, they're going to wonder how did the mass of people even tolerate such ignorance and evil. Really, it's evil.
Now, I want to put out a term before we go forward. I want you guys to think about this, because to a great extent, when we talk about politics, and like I just established, it flows from the mind of people. We need to start thinking about political hallucination. Right? We need to talk about political hallucination. When people hallucinate, you know what to hallucinate? You see things that's not there. You believe, your perception has you believing in things that you don't necessarily see. Right? So in the world of politics, we have been manipulated to a great extent because we believe in things that you don't see anywhere else in the world. We believe in voting and giving people power who we have had an adversarial relationship throughout history, thinking and hoping that these people are going to do the right thing by us. But we're hallucinating. We have never seen that, but we have these positive feelings about the white power structure, and if we just support them and go along, that over time they'll do right by us, despite us never having seen that. We're hallucinating. They too operate off hallucination, right? They see things in us on the street level and other levels that's not there. They see guns that's not there. They see aggressive, hostile people that's not there. You can sit having coffee at Starbucks, and they are threatened. Those people were hallucinating. But politics does flow from this hallucination. You have positive hallucination and negative hallucination. We operate off the hallucination that the whole world going to come together, and we're going to have whole hands sing Kumbaya and have a big fish fry, and everybody going to be happy.
Right.
That's positive hallucination. It's non-threatening, but this is what we hope for. This is our perception. Now, other people's perception about us are based off negative hallucination.
Okay.
When they see the threat, little boy knocking on the door, just trying to get directions, man comes to the door with a gun and tries to kill him because he's hallucinating. He perceives a threat. There is no threat, but still that doesn't negate one's hallucination. Now, if you have collective hallucination, which we have and they have, ours have been positive. Let's empower people in the blackest city who happen to be all white. Let's empower them to run things downtown. And we think, based on our hallucination, despite history, that they're still going to do right by us. There's no history that suggests they're going to do right by us, but this is positive hallucination. Now, other people, again, they operating off negative hallucination. That 15 or 14-year-old boy looking for directions and clearly articulated he's looking for directions since high school, they hallucinated and they perceived a threat. So when you have this collective hallucination, it affects our politics tremendously because they flow, policy flow from our thinking. You see, political agendas flow from our thinking. And if a group is based off hallucination, you have those type of outcomes. Everybody is a threat, or ours is positive. We all going to get along, and everybody going to do right by us one day, even though there's no history that suggests that. It's all collective hallucination. You see.
Wow.
That's tragic. That's really tragic. Okay, we have a few
As I say,
callers.
that's profound. Yes.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
Hi, how you doing?
Wonderful. Your name?
This is Yakanan.
Thanks for calling.
Listening to you on 91 Southwest Detroit.
91?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant, that's a great observation of the state of affairs today. And one thing I would like to add, when you give your children over to your enemy to teach, you give up your inheritance, your culture, your community consciousness. And because your enemy installs their own inside of your child is exposed to 10,000 violent assaults before he's 5 years old from radio, television, and media. Violent confrontation, situations, and, erroneous demonstrations. When you don't inform your 3-year-old child about its enemy, you are in collusion with the harm that is to come to them. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for calling, brother. I just want to, we have another caller, but I want Professor Griggs to let everyone know about the books that we have here and, maybe an overview of each one. And I've read both, and I have to say they're very enlightening. But I want you to share that with the people as well.
Okay, I brought 2 books. The first one is Sleepwalking While Black, and it's a cultural look at how we get manipulated to basically work in concert with white supremacy. Most of us don't know it, but we have been manipulated to do so. And the next is the African American Art of War, Survival Techniques for African Americans. Our fathers fought for us to have opportunities and wealth and certain positions of power. So in my book, I articulate what we should do with that wealth, with these positions of power that we occupy. If I'm a teacher, can I foster our agenda instead of fostering their agenda? If I'm a judge, can I make decisions that benefit our community when I render some of these sentences towards young people? If I'm a police officer, can I not engage in racial profiling? So these are survival techniques on how we should spend our money, how we should run our household, and what have you. And both of these books you can get off of Amazon.
Okay. That's excellent. And, I'm glad to that you mentioned that about working together because Reverend David Bullock has called together and pulled together a community of people who have invested their money, and they have purchased a store, a convenience store on West 7 Mile. It's 16400 West 7 Mile on the corner of Asbury Park. And I thought that was very commendable because people keep talking about it. We need to put our money together. We need to put so much every month. But Reverend David Bullock has actually done it, and the store is open. It's open, I believe, I don't know if it's open 7 days. I know it's open Monday through Saturday. I'm not clear on Sunday. But it's, like I said, 7 Mile West, 7 Mile in Asbury Park. So there is hope. And there are people in the community who are doing that. There are others in the community who are seeking out black businesses and supporting them. On, I think it's Channel 4, there's a listing on their website of 47 coffee and tea shops so that you do not have to go to Starbucks. You can go to one of those 47. Did you hear about it, Sabini?
I know, but I'm glad to hear now for sure.
And I know there's one, Java's is behind the Fisher Building. There's another one on, what is this street? The same, oh goodness, the theater where Dick Gregory spoke. What is that? People always pronounce it wrong. Off of Grand River. It's right down from the sweet potato sensations, right down from there. And there's a new one.
The Redford Theater?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, another coffee shop right just north of there. And there's one on Grand River. So I'm hoping that we can get that list of 47 and share it, because there's no reason why we should not patronize our own people.
And I think that, we have a great grapevine. What I mean by that is when we had the Montgomery boycott, there was no social media or anything to spread the word, but we were able to do that through the community. And when we mentioned churches earlier, that's an excellent way, because you do have a congregation of people there, and let them know. And I think that the churches should become more engaged as well. I've never been to Starbucks personally, so they haven't got none of my money yet. And I don't think it's going to happen now for sure.
Right.
We do have another caller.
Oh, sure.
Hello, caller. You're on the air. Would you share your name and how you're viewing us, please?
Comcast.
And your name, sir?
This is Brother Jihad.
Oh, thank you for calling. Is your
morning,
picture
Queen.
clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
To your guest, excellent subject, brother.
Thank
you.
Professor Michael Griggs.
Professor Michael Griggs.
Yes.
Always go back to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the honorable Elijah Muhammad is we should study what he taught, because brothers just bearing witness to what we discovered in the Bible and in the Holy Quran, identifying the very people that the brother's talking about. In the Bible, it speaks about a wise man studying the number 6, or the number, they speak about the number being the number of a man and also the number of a beast. And so what the brother describing, that we don't want to just say it, but it's the truth. It's these people are beasts, and a beast is, he kills without reason. And and this is what we've been subjected to for the last 6,000 years. And he looks like a man, but he's a beast in human form. And even in the Holy Quran, it describes, and when the angels was questioning God about him putting a ruler in the earth, and this ruler would cause the shedding of blood. And this man, in 2018, we ought to be able to see that something is different with this man than any other man on this planet.
Right. What chapter of the Quran can that be found?
I think that's in the it's in the 5th chapter.
The fifth chapter.
Yeah, I think it's in the 5th chapter of the Holy Quran.
Okay.
I could be correct, but what I can do, I have your phone number, so I can always call you back and give it to you personally.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be good, because we don't have any objection
to. Revelation speaks about the number of the 6, and a lot of people don't understand that 6 is the number of a man, but it's also the number of a beast.
Right, and we don't have any objection to sharing that information. But I also want to say that Comey was in the news saying that the current president is, he didn't say he was not fit medically. He said he's not fit morally to be president of these United States. And now Professor Michael Griggs spoke earlier, you were talking about the manipulation. Well, the manipulation is very overt and covert. Now, when you talk about covert, you talk about the kind of images that are put before all people that make them want to imitate, make them want to assimilate, because they have this strange desire, Professor Griggs, that if they do these things, such as the Asians having plastic surgery to round their eyes, such as now I hear that some Africans are using bleaching cream. And I heard recently, maybe it was from you, that the most recent strange change is that the Arabs that are having plastic surgery
from Iran.
Iran to change the shape of their noses. The Jewish community started dropping, this was back in the 30s, 40s, the last part of their names, so they wouldn't be identified. Like Bernstein is now Burns, like George Burns dropped a part of his name. So there are other ways by which people are being manipulated to want to be followers of the supremacists.
That's right.
The racists, and the whiteness. Oh, take it away. I can't see
Revelation 2nd chapter 9th verse. Revelation 3rd chapter 9th verse. Book of John 8th chapter. Read that old chapter with Jesus arguing with the Jews. You can begin to put things together, but we got to work fast because the man that's in office right now.
Oh, okay.
He's on his way of taking America into hell in a rocket ship.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We're unfortunately at the end of the show now, so we have to wrap up, and we'll have to continue this later. Thank you for calling, Professor Griggs.
Yeah.
Your last words.
Well, you hit the nail.
Of wisdom.
You hit the nail on the head. He has thoroughly convinced people around the globe to be more like him, and that's in our physical attributes as well as our psychological attributes. So more of us are thinking like him and desiring to look like him because we think that this body that we in is the reason to why we suffer so. And he has made us thoroughly believe that. And this is a global thing. That's why I don't want to just reduce it to us, but the Asians, the Middle Easterners, people all over the globe are suffering from this type of self-hatred.
You know, I just want to throw Bob Law's statement in because it stuck with me for so many years. He says they don't hate you because you're black. They hate you because they're white.
Oh, yes. I remember that. They don't hate us because we're black. They hate us because they are white. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I say at the end of our program, it's not necessary for you to know everything. What is necessary is for you to know how to find what you need when you need it. We at Hood Research seek out as much information as we can to share with you to help us all make better informed decisions.
If you want to be nothing, do nothing. But the only problem with doing nothing is you never know when you finish. And make sure you're registered for the 2018 midterm elections.
That's right. I want to thank you, Professor Michael Griggs.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are interested in registering for his class, registration is going on now for the summer session at all of the campuses of Wayne County Community College. Thank you. Tune in again next week. Peace.
And stay tuned for Get in the Know with Marley B.